Unaware. I just inherited 70B. My wife put hair removal cream in my shampoo before my promotion. My name is Jimmy Swansea. And this is the morning everything collapsed, and the morning everything began. The water was hot the way I liked it. Steam filled the bathroom until the mirror disappeared, which I remember clearly because I've replayed this morning so many times that even the small things have calcified. The sound of the pipes, the gray light bleeding under the bathroom door, the particular silence of an apartment where two people are awake but not speaking. I had rehearsed my speech for 2 weeks, every word, 12 minutes, distilled from 9 years of work, regional director, the keynote, 300 industry professionals in a room, and for the first time in my adult life, I was going to stand at the front of it without apologizing for being there. I'd bought a new suit. I'd scheduled a haircut for that morning, which, as it turned out, became irrelevant. I pumped the shampoo into my palm. It tingled first. That warmth that feels almost pleasant, that makes your brain say nothing is wrong for just long enough. I worked it through. 30 seconds of believing it was a normal morning. Then my hand came away from my scalp with hair in it. Not strands, a fistful. I stood there holding it the way you hold something your mind refuses to classify. I rinsed, frantically. More came. I pressed both hands to my head and pulled them away, and the burn was real now, spreading, undeniable. I grabbed the bottle. I sniffed it. It didn't smell like shampoo. 3 days ago, Tella had come home with a bag from the drugstore. She'd set a bottle on the bathroom shelf without a word, the way you set something down when you don't want it noticed. I had not noticed. I had reached for it this morning the way you reach for anything that's always been there. I grabbed a towel. I looked in the mirror. The damage was patchy and raw, uneven in the way that made it look worse than an accident, because accidents are symmetrical in their randomness. This wasn't random. I walked out of the bathroom. Tella was at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, phone face down. She looked up at me, took in the towel, the patches, the bottle still in my hand, and she said very quietly, "Oh no, what happened to you?" Not a gasp, not her hand flying to her mouth. The sound a person makes when they see something they didn't expect. She didn't make that sound, because she didn't need to. Just the flat, careful performance of concern. I looked at her for a long moment, long enough to see that she didn't look away, long enough to understand that whatever this was, she had decided to hold it steady. "Yeah," I said. "What happened to me?" I turned around, walked back into the bedroom, closed the door. I opened the bottom drawer of my dresser, the one with my old electric razor from before we got married, the one I'd kept because Tella had once teased me about being sentimental over objects. I sat on the edge of the bed, and I shaved what was left. All of it. Clean. 6 minutes, sitting there, watching it go. I want to tell you I was thinking about Tella. I want to tell you I was thinking about the inheritance I didn't yet know about, or Derek Ossie, or any of the names that were about to rearrange my life. But the truth is, I was thinking about my father, about the termination letter on the mahogany desk, about the way Gerald Swansea had looked at me that night, not with hatred, but with a disappointment so complete it felt like a door being locked from the other side. "You're too soft for this empire, James." I put on my best suit. I straightened my tie. I picked up my keys. I paused at the front door and said, without turning around, "Did you sign for any mail this week?" The silence lasted 2 seconds too long. "No," Tella said. "Nothing came." I left. Please, before I continue, kindly like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories. The drive to work takes 22 minutes on a normal morning. That morning it took 40 because I pulled over 3 times. Once to sit, once to think, and once because a phone call came in from a number I didn't recognize, and something in my chest told me to answer it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The first thing I did when I got in the car was look at myself in the rearview mirror, completely bald, suit pressed, tie straight. I looked like a man who had made a decision, which I suppose was accurate, even if the decision had been made for me. I've thought about that reflection a lot since then. The strange dignity of having nothing left to lose on your face. No hair to hide behind, no softness around the edges. Just the face underneath, which had apparently been there the whole time. I pulled out of the parking lot and I told myself, get through the speech. Everything else after. 6 minutes into the drive, my phone buzzed on the passenger seat. Rosa Adebayo. I picked up on the second ring. Did you get it? She said, instead of hello. Get what? A pause. The thing I left under your car door last night, the envelope. I hadn't checked under my car door. I hadn't known to check under my car door. I told her that. Jimmy. Her voice dropped the way it does when someone is choosing words carefully in a small space. I need you to find it before you come inside, before anyone sees your face when you read it. Okay? Rosa, what? Just find the envelope. I'll explain everything after the speech. She hung up. I want to tell you about Rosa, because she matters more to this story than she'll probably ever know. 7 years of working beside someone builds a kind of fluency. You learn how they sound when they're being professional, how they sound when they're being honest, and how they sound when they're frightened. Rosa Adebayo frightened was a sound I had heard exactly once before, the morning she found out her mother was sick. That was how she sounded on that phone call. I filed it. Get through the speech. 14 minutes later, the second call came. Unknown number. I let it ring the first time. At the third red light on Route 9, something made me pick up. Mr. Swansea. The voice was older, measured. The voice of a man who delivered difficult information for a living and had learned over decades to do it without flinching. My name is Reginald Harlow. I am the estate attorney for the late Gerald Swansea. I've been attempting to reach you for 11 weeks. I sent a certified letter to your home address approximately 3 weeks ago. I was informed by the recipient that you had received it. A pause. Sir, I need to ask, are you currently aware that you are the sole heir to the Swansea estate? I pulled over. Not because I made the decision to pull over. The car just stopped, the way your body sometimes acts before your mind catches up. How much? I said. I don't know why that was my first question. Of all the things I could have asked, my father is dead? Or what estate? Or you've been trying to reach me for 11 weeks? The thing that came out of my mouth was how much. Maybe because some part of me, the part that grew up inside that empire before being removed from it, already knew the architecture of what was coming and needed the number to make it real. $70 billion, Harlow said. Controlling interest in Swansea Global Infrastructure, 12 subsidiary companies, 4 international ports. Your father passed 61 days ago, Mr. Swansea. The transfer window outlined in the will closes in 29 days. The traffic moved around me. A truck went past and the car rocked gently in its wake. I sat very still. There is a recorded message, Harlow said. From your father. Would you like to hear it? I said yes before I finished thinking about whether I meant it. The recording was 43 seconds. Gerald Swansea's voice came through my car speakers. Older, the bass gone out of it, something around the edges that I had never once heard in that voice when he was standing in front of me. Something that took me until the second sentence to name. Regret. James. I watched you on the news. The community award. The workers standing behind you, clapping. I told myself for a long time it was weakness. What you did, choosing them over the deal, I was wrong. You are the only Swansea who ever made me ashamed of myself. That is the only kind of son worth leaving anything to. The will has a condition. Read section 11. Stay married, son, whatever it takes. I don't know why I'm saying that. I just know you'll understand when it matters. The recording clicked off. I sat on the side of Route 9, completely bald, in my best suit, 9 minutes from the biggest presentation of my life. And I started laughing. Not the good kind, not relief, but the kind that comes when the world tilts past a certain angle and the only available response is the sound of a man realizing he has understood nothing. Then I stopped laughing. Section 11. Stay married. I thought about Tella's voice that morning. Oh no. What happened to you? I thought about the mail she said never came. I reached for the glove compartment. The glove compartment held the envelope Rosa had left. Plain white, my name in her handwriting. I opened it with one hand still on the steering wheel. A photo. printed on regular paper, slightly blurry, taken from across a restaurant. But unmistakable. Tella, leaning forward, laughing. The real laugh, the one that reaches her eyes, the one I hadn't seen directed at me in 14 months. A man across from her, his hand briefly on hers. On the back, Rosa had written, 3 weeks ago. I didn't know if it was my place. I'm sorry, Jimmy. I should have told you sooner. I folded the photo, put it in my jacket pocket, directly over my heart. Not sentimentally, but because I needed to feel it there. A reminder, an anchor. Then I thought about the certified letter, the one Tella signed for, the one she hid. She had held that letter in her hands, read that my father had left me $70 billion, and then looked me in the eye every single morning since and said nothing. And then she put hair removal cream in my shampoo the morning of my promotion. I started the car. Get through the speech. Rosa was waiting in the lobby. When she saw me, bald, composed, moving with something she'd later describe as terrifyingly calm, her hand went to her mouth. Jimmy? I got the envelope, I said quietly. And I got a phone call this morning that makes what's in that photo not just personal, it's financial, it's legal, and I need 48 hours before we do anything. What kind of phone call? The kind where a number you don't recognize changes every number that comes after it. I straightened my jacket. Don't say anything to anyone, not today. Rosa grabbed my arm. Her grip was firm, the way it gets when she's decided something. Are you okay to do this speech? I thought about Gerald Swansea's voice on that recording. The workers behind me, clapping. The only Swansea who ever made me ashamed of myself. I thought about Tella at that table. Oh no. What happened to you? I've been rehearsing this speech for 2 weeks, I said. I'm not letting this morning take it from me. Rosa held my gaze for a moment longer than necessary. Then she nodded, stepped aside, and I walked through those auditorium doors. 300 people. The room went quiet the moment I reached the podium. Not the respectful quiet of an audience settling, but the uncertain quiet of people who weren't sure how to react to what they were seeing. I let it sit for exactly 3 seconds. I was planning to open with something polished, I said. Then this morning happened. Uncomfortable laughter. Then real laughter. Then the room exhaled. I gave every word of that speech, every pause I had rehearsed, every moment I had planned to look up and let the room feel the weight of what 9 years of quiet work actually costs. And somewhere in the middle, the polite professional attention shifted into something quieter, more focused. The particular silence of people who have stopped thinking about themselves and started listening. When I finished, the applause started before my last sentence ended. My boss shook my hand. Best speech we've ever had at one of these. What happened to your hair? Chemistry accident, I said. I'll tell you the full story someday. He laughed. I smiled. My phone was buzzing continuously in my pocket. 6 missed calls, all Tella. She never called during work hours. In 6 years of marriage, I could count those calls on one hand. Her mother's accident, the apartment flood, the night the power went out for the whole block. 6 calls meant she knew something had changed. I stepped into the hallway and called back. She picked up on the first ring. Her voice was higher than normal, moving faster, the practiced calm completely gone beneath the performance of it. Hey, how was the speech? I've been thinking about you all morning. I feel terrible about the shampoo. I think it was mislabeled at the... Tella. She stopped. Reginald Harlow called me this morning. 4 seconds of silence. Who? She said. The estate attorney, for my father's estate. He told me about the certified letter, the one you signed for 3 weeks ago. 6 seconds this time. Longer. The kind of silence that isn't empty. It's full of someone calculating. Jimmy, I can explain. I know you can, I said. I'd like to hear it in person. Come home tonight. Don't go to the office. Of course, she said. Of course I'll come home. She hung up, and 3 miles away in a parking garage I wouldn't learn about until later, Tella immediately called Derek Osei. He knows, she whispered. He knows about the letter. Derek's response was immediate. How many days left in the window? Tella checked her calendar. Her face went white. 28, she said. Then we need those papers signed in 72 hours, Derek said. Before he understands Section 11? I came home at 7 to candlelight and the smell of garlic and rosemary. Tella in the green dress, the one from our third date, the one I'd told her once was my favorite. She hugged me at the door, long, tight, the hug of someone who had decided that warmth was the right strategy. We ate. She talked. About the speech, about a vacation she'd been thinking about nothing, filling the air the way you fill silence when silence is dangerous. She poured my wine, refilled it without asking. Then she set a folder on the table, casually, like it had simply been sitting nearby. Just some financial paperwork. Beneficiary update on one of my accounts. Needs your signature. I looked at the folder. I didn't touch it. Can I read it first? I asked. Of course. She was already turning back to the kitchen. Take your time. I opened it. Page 1, paragraph 1. James Swansea agrees to the dissolution of the marriage effective upon signature of both parties. I closed the folder. I picked up my wine glass. I took a slow sip. I did not let my face change, not even slightly, because now I understood everything, and Tella had no idea that I did. Beneath the table, I pressed record on my phone. For 45 minutes I let her talk. I asked gentle questions. I made it feel like an ordinary evening, and Tella, relieved, growing confident, began making small, irreversible mistakes. She mentioned fresh starts. She said we'd both known for a while that things had been hard. She said, almost offhandedly, sometimes people outgrow each other. It doesn't mean anyone did anything wrong. Then I said, quietly, evenly, is Derek Osei someone you outgrew with, or someone you've grown toward? The pasta dropped off her fork. What did you just say? I found the photo, Tella. Rosa gave it to me this morning. She opened her mouth, closed it. The architecture of the evening, the candles, the green dress, the folder, suddenly visible for exactly what it was. And I found his name in your call log 3 weeks ago when you left your phone on the counter, I continued. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to believe it. She stared at me. Under the table, the recorder was still running. The folder was still sitting there, and I kept my hand flat on my knee, completely still, because the most important thing in that moment was that she not know how fast my heart was going. Something collapsed in Tella, not into tears, into anger. The performance fell away, and what was underneath it wasn't guilt. It was the fury of someone who had miscalculated a very large number. Yes, Derek and I have been talking, and yes, I read the letter, because I deserve to know if the man I've been living with for 6 years was secretly worth $70 billion. I didn't know, I said. The Swansea port terminal, Jimmy. I drove past it for 4 years. I Googled it once and told myself it was a coincidence. I was disowned at 22. You're not disowned anymore, her voice cracked. That money is half mine. 6 years of marriage. You were trying to get me to sign a separation agreement tonight. Because Derek said if we filed first. She stopped, caught herself. Derek told you to file before I understood Section 11, I said. Because once I knew what Section 11 meant, your leverage disappeared. Silence. Tella, the separation agreement would have voided my inheritance. Completely. Gerald's will requires me to be legally married at the time of transfer. Did Derek explain that? Or did he leave it out? Her face went completely still. What is Section 11? She whispered. I slid my phone across the table. The recorder was still running. I explained Section 11 slowly. The 90-day window. The marriage condition. The board of directors waiting to absorb the estate if I signed anything dissolving the marriage before the transfer closed. Derek Osei, if he told you to push for signatures within 72 hours, was either trying to destroy me financially, or he was working for someone on that board. Tella sat very still. At 10:02 p.m., someone knocked on the door. Reginald Harlow. Late 60s, briefcase, reading glasses on a chain, slightly out of breath from the stairs. He read the entire scene in 4 seconds. The candles, the dinner, the folder, Tella's face, the way a man reads it after 31 years of watching family wealth rearrange people. He sat across from Tella, opened his briefcase, placed a single document beside the folder. Mrs. Swansea, I presume you've read the certified letter. Yes, Tella said. Then you understand what's at stake. He folded his hands. I need to ask you something. Did Derek Osei contact you first, or did you contact him? Tella looked at me, then back at Harlow. Something moved across her face. Not calculation, not strategy. Something older. Something that looked almost painfully like the woman from the laundromat. Tella told the truth. Derek had contacted her. 8 months ago. He'd tracked her down after a news piece about my firm ran online. What she hadn't known, what Derek had carefully withheld, was that a Swansea board member named Philip Draper had hired him specifically to locate Gerald's estranged son and neutralize the inheritance before the window closed. Derek's commission was 2% of the retained estate value, $1.4 billion. Tella had not been a partner in this. She had been an instrument. The hair removal cream, Derek had suggested it. Humiliate him before the big day. Men make bad decisions when their confidence breaks. She had laughed when he said it. She didn't laugh now. Harlow made 2 phone calls. When he hung up the second, he said, Derek Osei boarded a flight to London 40 minutes ago. Philip Draper has been removed from the Swansea board pending investigation. I've filed an emergency legal hold on any separation proceedings. He looked at us both, then stood. You have 27 days and a great deal to discuss, he said. I'll give you privacy. His footsteps down the stairs, the door below closing. Silence. Jimmy looked at Tella. Tella looked at her hands. The candles were still burning. Tella spoke first. The night of your promotion nomination, 3 months ago, I stayed up until 2 a.m. reading every article about you, your community award, the workers you fought for, the speech your team gave at the nomination dinner. She didn't look up. I didn't tell you because I didn't know how to say, I think I've been punishing you for being good. Because somewhere I decided that good men don't survive. My father was a good man. We lost everything. She looked up then. Before Derek, before the letter, I was still in. I was scared and resentful, and I took it out on you in small, ugly ways. But I was in. I picked up the pen I'd brought to sign my promotion documents. I held it for a moment. Then I put it back in my pocket. I'm not signing anything tonight. Not that folder. Not the inheritance documents. We do this right. Counseling, full transparency, every message from Derek, or we don't do it at all. I looked at her steadily. If I find one more thing you're hiding, I'll let the $70 billion go to the board without a single day of regret. Are we clear? Yes, she whispered. I called Harlow. Monday morning, together. He was quiet. Then, your father said one more thing, off the record. He said, if James can forgive someone who doesn't deserve it, he'll know exactly what to do with everything I built. I hung up. I blew out the candles one by one. Then I went to get my coat, because I needed to walk outside and feel the cold air on my bare head and remember that I was still standing.